Hello everybody. It's about that time of the year again where I talk through my Pokemon Home collection, showcasing everything kind of briefly, but also talking about what's new, what's different, what I hope to do next. There were a couple of things that came up in last year's video that I'm going to kind of sprinkle throughout this one, some little corrections to. Not like big mistakes, but sometimes I misspoke and a couple of things I didn't clarify that I probably should have. So first, without further ado, let's get into things. We're going to start by looking at Pokemon Home entirely, and then we'll talk about the games in a minute here. Alright, so let's look at, we're on the first box here, but we'll back out, zoom out, and look at all the box spaces. So box space 1, do a quick little overview. This is where I keep all of my events, some sort of rare Go stuff, some different things like that. Box space 2 and 3 has my Living Dex. Box space 4 and 5 features my shiny Living Dex, and then another Dex right there that I'll showcase. Box space 6 and then the beginning of 7 features my Go Living Dex, and then the end of box space 7 here just has some extra boxes, some trades, some shiny things, which I'll go over in a moment. So second, we're gonna just kind of go in order of what I have here. And the order is actually something that's changed from last year. So first up, last year was the Living Dex, but now I've reorganized everything and I've got some events and some of that stuff first. So we're going to go through this catch-all box space for events, unique Pokemon, and some rare stuff. So first I have an inbox which just has some anything that's just come in or I'm trying to move out. Then we have my home gifts, and I'm not going to talk through everything, all the events or anything. I'm just going to briefly show them and talk through the most important stuff. You see the shiny mythicals down there. Those are the important home gifts from doing the Dex challenges, which I'll show off at the end of the video. Scarlet and Violet events, Sword and Shield events, Sword and Shield, and then a couple of the Let's Go events, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I'm very close to having a full set of all of the English events. So you'll see we're going back black, white. Now we've passed the events. So these are all of the old events here. Well, there's 2 boxes of events in a minute, but past most of the events. So now we're moving into, I've organized this running backwards by era and generation. So now we're in the black and white generation. So I have some extra special Pokemon that aren't events, but I went through and caught. So I got every single one of N's Pokemon, and I did a Living Dex of it for fun. So I played through Black and White 2 twice, or 3 times for some Pokemon. Luckily, it was very quick to get through that to build this Living Dex, which I think is a super cool sort of like thing to hold on to, especially once Bank shuts down. Then I have almost a full Living Dex of all the Dream Radar Pokemon. I'm missing the sort of like Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver inserts, the legendaries you get for that. I'll get those one day. I'm not too fussed about it. If it comes time where Bank is about to shut down, I'll borrow the games from friends and get that. So here's some Diamond, Pearl, Platinum events, Gen 3 events. Then I have some extra events that I've self-claimed, self-redeemed, and then just extra events that I've been collecting over the years that I didn't necessarily self-redeem, but like my friends did, people that I trust. Then I've got special other Pokemon, so this is like all the Titans, all the guaranteed shinies from throughout the years. There's the recent Rayquaza, but I also have the Haxorus and the Dratini from Black and White 2 and that kind of stuff. The Origin Ball legendaries, some Shalfas, just a couple of the raid, the Terra raid stuff. I haven't done all of them. I'm not too fussed about the marked Pokemon. And then these down here are just some Pokemon for home challenges that I've kept around to help people out with some of the more rare things like special moves and stuff like that. Yes, and then here are just a bunch of really rare, cool, shiny Ghost Stamp Pokemon for trade. Some extras for trade here that aren't super great, and then these are ones that I'm keeping. I really love this level 100 Ladybug from Go. There was a glitch a couple of years ago where the levels and stuff was getting messed up when transferring to Home. So this Ladybug is level 100 and it hasn't been moved into any game. It has the Ghost Stamp in the mobile version. I can show it to you later. very, very funny, weird thing that's not very valuable, but it's super rare and interesting. A friend kind of helped me get that recently. And then yes, so let's go ahead and zoom out again here to show you box base 2 and 3. We're now getting into the Living Dex. There were a couple of things that I needed to talk about, but this is probably the thing that most people are going to relate to, maybe even have themselves, the sort of national living form decks, and all of this has my OT. The only things that don't have my OT are things that can't, and then there's kind of one exception at the end that I'll explain. And again here, I'm not going to talk through every Pokemon at all, just going to show off a couple of the major ones that are kind of interesting or unique. You'll also see that I keep forms next to each other, gender, different regional forms. I keep it all in the decks like this. I think it just looks way better that way. And yeah, it's a pain to sort of reorganize things, but it's rare enough to do that. That doesn't bother me. I prefer to see it like this. A couple of things to note though before we get started. Other than the forms and stuff, I don't care about Origin. So this is not like a Master Dex or an Origin Dex. I don't care about where the Pokemon came from as long as I caught it myself. And, fully legitimate, caught by me. I also don't care about the ball they're in. I know some people do only Pokeball. I don't care about that in the slightest. And then the only other thing is that I do keep Go Pokemon out of the decks unless they have to, or the only way to get a Pokemon with my OT is from Go. But that's not some sort of purist thing. It's because I have a separate Go Dex and I wanted this to be all from the mainline games. If you use Go Pokemon in your Living Dex, more power to you. Does not bother me at all. Do have all the Ash, or all the different hat Pikachus, Ash, and then the different sort of region hats. Nothing incredible to talk about in Gen 1, really, other than just to point out like the Mew is the Pokeball plus one. Gen 2, super non-special, nothing really interesting again. The Celebi is the Virtual Console Celebi. Gen 3 is also not very crazy, nothing really interesting to mention until the very end. Jirachi is the BDSP one. Then there's my Deoxys from Oras, and then I still have not, last year I mentioned, one day I'll play through Oras a couple more times to get Deoxys with my OT that's not from Go. For now, these are fine being stand-ins. I don't really think I need to go play Oras like 3 more times, right now anyway, to get more Deoxys with my OT that's not from Go. These will suffice for now. Serve a fine purpose. Then we have Gen 4. Okay, let me check my notes to make sure nothing I had to mention that I'm missing. When we get to the end of Gen 4, almost all this stuff is from either BDSP or PLA. All the different, like both forms of Shaman, things like that. Victini, I did, last year I mentioned I had a Victini from Go. I went ahead, since I was replaying through Black and White 2 to get all that stuff, I went ahead and did the event. I wasn't a fan of before of like injecting items and stuff like that, but I felt like the more I was interested in getting things with my OT, I felt like this is perfectly acceptable to get the Victini with, with my OT from a mainline game, and in the kind of interesting Pokeball. All right, then Gen 5 again. Not a lot to talk about throughout the generation until we get to the end. That's where the stuff gets kind of more interesting. Keldeo, I played through Sword and Shield twice for the DLC, Crown Tundra. Meloetta from Scarlet and Violet, and Genesect. Go is still the only way to get a Genesect with your OT. I'm sure that'll change in the future because they've been slowly rolling them out like that, so we'll get that eventually. I do have the Ash Greninja here. All the Vivian. Me and a friend actually went through the tiresome journey a couple years back of getting these with our OT by people trading eggs to us in the old games, and we finished this hunt. We got everything with our own OT, even the rare ones, and then they announced them for Scarlet and Violet. So we were a little, we're like, oh, of course, right when we finish this task, we get, the Scarlet and Violet ability to get them in Scarlet and Violet, but you know, I think it's cool that we have them from the older games. And then I do have the event, but this one was replaced with Scarlet and Violet's so that it could have my OT, but the event one still cannot have my OT. All the Furfrou, of course, can only be from Go. That's probably going to change with ZA. We'll see. Hopefully it does. I'd like to be able to get those with my OT from the main games. And then at the very end here, we've got quite a bit of funky stuff. So you'll see too, I only have 2 Zygarde. You know, I wasn't too fussed about getting the 50, like the Aura Break and Power Construct of the sort of 50% form and the 10%. I know some people do that. I wasn't too worried about doing that as I was preparing the Living Dex. More power to you if you want to have 4 of them. For Diancie here, it's from Go. It's the only way to have it with your OT. Same with Hoopa and Hoopa Unbound. I sent 2 of them from Go. And then Volcanion right now, only way to have it is with an event OT, except it's coming to Go in 2 weeks as of this recording, so I'll be able to replace that with my OT after it comes out in Go for Go Fest. And I do have, even though I don't have multiple of the Zygarde, I do have the 2 Rockruff. That for me, I think is just for fun. You know, it doesn't really, it's not like, oh, this one counts, but Zygarde doesn't. It's just because I had it, so I put it there. Wasn't worried about it. I had the Zygarde too later for the home challenge, but I don't know. Just one of those pesky little things about building a Living Dex. You kind of make weird decisions as you go. I have both Magearna, and then I have the Marshadow from Go. And then Zeraora cannot be your OT at the moment. Maybe ZA is going to change that. Then both Meltan from Go. We get into Gen 8. With all the alchemy, I traded for the rare sweets. Thank you to whoever that was on Reddit. I can't remember who you were for trading me all the rare sweets. This person had farmed the old event in Sword and Shield and had a bunch of the rare sweets and gave me a couple tossed my way. So it was very nice. Helped me out with that. And then we get to the end here. I have Zarude. So Zamazenta, I should talk about this first. I have a Go Zamazenta because I did not play Shield. I didn't buy Shield. I just played Sword. You know, one day this is going to come to another game where I can get my OT. For now, the Go one works for me. The Jungle Zarude you can't get in your OT. The only way to get a regular Zarude with your OT is through Go. So that's what I've done here. I had to replay PLA for another Enamorus. That was maybe the least grindy replay ever. It was so much fun to replay PLA. Did not feel like a chore at all. All the forms from Paldea here. Again, nothing really special to talk about other than the Gimmighoul roaming form, which came from Go. And then the end of the Living Dex. And then here's the sort of special extra sort of part of the Living Dex that I do. You know, some people do the Gmax factor and they have that as a separate thing. So I do that too, but I take it a step further, I think, than a lot of people, which is I have the gender differences, but I also have the pre-evolutions where possible. So, you know, like the Gift Charmander from the end of the game, I played through a couple of times to get that. For the Bulbasaur and Ivysaur, I had to get those from the Isle of Armor DLC gift. I did the same thing with Squirtle and Wartortle. Everything here has my OT, with an exception. You'll see here, I guess with 2 exceptions, I should say, because Gmax Melmetal can only have the home OT. You weren't able to do it yourself. And then here's the other exception, the Milcery. I was not playing Pokemon during the event where Milcery was given out with the Gmax factor, so I traded for this one. Sadly, and there's no way to get it now with your OT. Maybe one day they'll do it again somehow with Gmax factor, but you know, this, since it's something I literally can't get, I'm not worried about it not having my OT. I'm just happy that I have it. And then I don't have the Gmax Hatchram, but that was a mistake. That was quickly patched, so maybe one day I'll get it, maybe not. It doesn't feel like I have an incomplete Dex without it though. Alright, continuing on, Box Space 4 and 5 have the shiny Living OT Dex. Everything here is legit and caught by me mostly. Now everything is legit, That's true. But there were a few things I said last time that I want to kind of correct here. One is this statement, actually. There are a couple of shiny Pokemon here that were traded to me in Go, but then when I send them to home, they have my OT. Now, they are legit, they just weren't self-caught. Last year, I said self-caught to just mean my OT. I should have clarified that, because there are a few things like shiny regionals in Go, from friends who travel, trade them to me. I end up sending them to home. This is going to apply later, especially when discussing a different section, so I'll come back to it. But as for the shinies here, I do have everything with my OT except for a few things. Last year I was down to needing 45 with my OT. The Gen 9 starters have been getting community days this year, so those have been getting checked off. As I scroll, I'll talk about what's missing, and I'll put them up here for a second here. I need still Paldea and Tauros, the red form. The yellow Squawkabilly, just never went back and finished the Squawkabilly hunt. I do need Quaxley's line, but that'll likely be August Community Day or September, one of the two. I can't remember which one has just been announced via vote. But Quaxley will be coming this year. And then female Xatu, for some reason, the Tandemaus family of 3, that's a tough one. I've got to find that. The male Rattata, which I actually have, it's just currently still in my White 2 copy. I caught it trying to get an Eevee. I was trying to get an Eevee, and it just randomly showed up. And then I do need the second Own Tempo Rockruff, just because I did that in the Living Dex. I need to duplicate it here. And then Shaman Skyform, so that means I need a second shiny Shaman. And then I also need Arceus. The rest are just a couple of unknown forms, but I've been doing those on and off since last year, and I've made some good progress. So as we go, we'll stop to mention anything that's worth pointing out. I should just clarify, even though it's obvious, I don't mind Go Pokemon being here at all. I don't understand the elitism around it's too easy to catch them in Go. I think it's easy to get shinies everywhere nowadays, so I'm fully comfortable having them from anywhere, as long as they have my OT. And these alternate between my Go OT and my main series game OT. Of course, the Hat Pikachu can't be shiny. You can technically get the one from the QR code as shiny, but it actually doesn't show as shiny, and it's not supposed to be that way, so I never tracked it down. Let's see, anything worth mentioning as we go here? Not really anything too fancy. I do have the these guys are from Go. The different Galarian birds, because that's how you get them with your OT. And then I have my shiny Mew from Go. And I haven't moved any of these into a game, so they are all Go stamped, technically, if you know what that means. So then Gen 2, like I mentioned, I need to replace quite a bit of the unknown here. I think I'm up to around half of them, but like you'll see, a couple of them are from other people, and you'll see some are sprinkled in are from me. Most have been doing that hunt in PLA. Let's see, anything special here. I do have a few things later to mark down that like Dunsparce. It made me think of the 3 segment, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Don't want to get too ahead of myself. At the end of this here, I do have my shiny Celebi from Go. Gen 3. I think most of the time when you watch these videos, by the way, it comes down to pointing out where the mythicals came from, shiny and not shiny. Most stuff, it's like, I just caught this in a game, caught this in Go. It's not really that interesting to talk about. Legendaries and mythicals are where we get to it. So Jirachi, it's the Go Jirachi, and then I have all of these from Go. They did a raid day a couple of years ago. Deoxys is one of my favorite shinies, so I loved that raid day. It was fun to be able to actually get everything with my OT that way. Alright, yeah, so then we'll keep moving on here. A lot of this stuff is from PLA, obviously. Gen 4, the best place to get things is PLA. Then we get to the end here, a lot of the shiny legendaries are from Go. And then we get the Phione, which I bred for. And then the Manaphy is not my OT. I want to do that someday, track down shiny Manaphy with my OT, but the hunts are awful, even if it's like RNG'd or trading to a different game, and I've seen people do it like with Ace. I think Johnstone did that recently. So one day maybe, but for now I'm okay with the home one. Then this old Arceus event, I'm planning on changing that out soon, like the Darkrai Shaman from Go. Then we get into Gen 5. Again, nothing too crazy until we get to the end. I know that's how these always go. We get to the end here. A lot of this stuff is from Go. I think every legendary here is from Go. And then the Keldeo, I did do. I got a second. I opened a second home account so that I could move things over to get a second Keldeo. That way I could have both forms. And then the Shiny Meloetta is the brand new one. I just got it in Go 2 weeks ago. Finally finished the research, moved it over. My Shiny Genesect is from Go. So then we get into our next gen here. Right now, you can't have Ash Greninja Shiny. I doubt they'll ever implement that, so this is probably always just going to be a sort of like hole in the Dex here. Maybe someday, from far from now. And then the same thing goes for Vivian. Can't get that with your OT. All the Furfrou, these are all from Go. This is where people trading me regional forms and then me sending it to home. See, it has my Go OT here, but a lot of these were traded with friends who traveled and were able to change the forms in Japan, Egypt, things like that. I had a friend who went to Greece and did a lot of traveling all throughout Europe and was traveling around, and eventually caught a lot of things I needed, like the Sigilif and Go, things like that, and then some of the other shinies like the Furfrou, things like that. And then we get to here, you'll see this is where we start to get into things still being shiny locked. So like Diancie, you can't get it shiny with your OT, it's an old event. And then I did get 2 of the Zygarde here. This was one of the worst hunts ever, having to do this in 2 different Dynamax adventures. I was just running 2 like simultaneously all the time, hunting. Eventually was able to track both down. These are from Go, and like I said, the Diancie's an event. And then I still haven't gotten a second shiny Rockruff for the Home Tempo. I'll get it one day. That's an easy thing to do in Scarlet and Violet. Just need to sit down and do it. I did hunt for the Silvally and Type Null, so that was fun in the old 3DS games. Then we have these used to be the events. Now they're mine from Go. And then I did the same thing with the Solgaleo and Lunala from Dynamax Adventures. A couple of the others are from Dynamax Adventures, some are from old wormholes, but then obviously Cosmoem can't be shiny yet. And then same with the other mythicals of the gen. Zero Aura can, but it can only be the home OT because it was a gift. And then now we get into Galar. A lot of this was just caught in Sword and Shield. A lot of, for some things I was able to do Dynamax Adventures, but then for others it was just like a lot of grinding. I was able to get these from Go with your OT. Eternatus doesn't have that yet. This is also from Go. I did not do the shiny hunting in Sword and Shield because this was something I was putting off forever, and then they came to Go and I was like, well, might as well just do the Go ones. And then you see all these shiny locks here. There's so many shiny locks starting at the end of Galar. And then I did do the same as well, by the way, with the Enamorus. I got two home accounts just so I could move everything over through the game and get another. Then we're into Paldea. This is all pretty self-explanatory. Scarlet and Violet made it very easy to catch all of this. But then we get to all of the shiny locks. I mean, everything at the end is shiny locked. I have a whole page that's just empty because everything here is shiny locked. Alright, well that's the end of the shiny Living Dex. I don't think there was anything worth mentioning. Oh, something I did have on my notes here but forgot to mention is last time I didn't have all the Pumpkaboos. I did finally get those through a Go event. Did a lot of catching in Go. Alright, and then next we have the OT Living Alpha Dex. There are like 6 Pokemon in here that do not have my OT, but so many do. I think the few exceptions are things like From the Trees, like Burmy, stuff like that, and a couple of space-time dimension stuff. But for the most part, all of this is my OT, and it's all alpha, it's all living. Very, very happy with this. I thought this was such a fun extra thing to track down and get, something that not a lot of people I think were thinking about a lot. I saw some people talking about it and doing it, but for the most part they were thinking about it as like catching alphas in the game. They weren't thinking of like building a Living Dex to kind of maintain and keep in home. But I think it's really cool, and having all the unknown, the full like sort of alphabet, I think is really fun. All right, and that brings us to the end of the Alpha Living Dex. The next thing that I have here for box space 6 is the GO Dex. And for the most part, my National Living Dex all has my regular OT, not my GO OT. There were the like Deoxys forms that had the GO OT. That's kind of it. I have to change that at some point here. But the GO Dex, this has everything with my GO OT. That's because I like to just kind of keep things separate. I think it's fun. And I didn't do forms at all for this, because this is mostly about completing the GO Dex in home, not really building a form dex where I have everything. I wasn't too worried about having 3 whole full form dexes. This was just more about finishing the GO Dex in home. And I know I mentioned Sigilith earlier. That was just an example of a Pokemon where I said self-caught last time, but it's not really self-caught. I just meant that it had my OT. So there are things here like that. Some of the rarer Pokemon, some were traded to me in the game before I sent them here. So if we keep scrolling, yeah, you'll see things like, Spinda's not available to transfer. It's blocked for transfer because of the way they coded it. You have some things that aren't here. Like last time I accidentally said, like Fiona Manaphy couldn't be transferred, but I meant that they aren't in Go at all. And that's the same with like the Honedge line and things like that. So there are some things that just aren't in Go at all from the older gens that haven't been able to transfer yet. Like there, Zygarde's in Go, but it can't be transferred yet. Really silly restrictions that make this sort of hard to complete. I'm not sure how much we gotta really show off, but I guess we will. I do have everything that's possible, including the latest, which I probably should point out, like the latest, the Cubfu and Urshifu. Yeah, everything's here. Everything's accounted for, like the Applin, that family. Like I have the stuff that's not even in Go yet, but is Go marked because you're able to evolve it in the games. And the end of the GO Dex has nothing because those aren't there yet. Alright, so then now we're into just some random stuff at the end here that I should mention. So I have just a few boxes of like shinies to trade. These are for me, they're just sort of trade fodder, things that I can give to people. I do some giveaways, things like that here and there. And these are just extra shinies that are my OT that I'm just sort of keeping for now. Not sure what I'll do with them. I'll do something eventually with them, maybe give some away, maybe build some teams out of some of these since they have my OT. And then these are just extra legends from various games, like from White 2, then a bunch of Sword and Shield stuff, a bunch of extra PLA stuff from various playthroughs, Scarlet and Violet stuff. Just kept some of the extras here. Not sure what to do with those yet. Then at the end I do have some boxes that are my Hall of Fame boxes. These are just playthrough teams. So like my Sword and Shield one, like you see some of these like earlier Sword and Shield stuff, like this Citrus Raichu, that's like an in-game trade and Let's Go. So I wasn't worrying about getting things that were my own. And then this was when I was still like doing the old-fashioned marking for some of those things, because this was my starter Rillaboom that I ended up hyper training and marking everything. And this was just a shiny Charizard I traded from someone. Lick my shoe. Love some of the old weird Pokemon I have in here. Like this Rhyperior's trainer was garbage. Then you see some of my own things. And this is another all shiny playthrough I did. This one's for BDSP where I named everything after authors. And then there was just this for some reason. But I named like Mewis Carroll. And then this was my PLA all alpha playthrough. This was my Scarlet and Violet playthrough, and then just some extra stuff from various playthroughs. And ooh, these are my kind of like favorite Pokemon I own. This Shiny Groudon was the first Pokemon I ever soft reset shiny hunted for. I got it in 2020 in the Alola region. I did it in the wormholes, and this only took me like I think, I don't have the number with me. I don't know if I really kept track. It was around 200 encounters. It was insanely low. It was crazy. It got me hooked on shiny hunting. It knew what it was doing. It gave it to me early to make me want to keep going. And then the shiny Rayquaza I just got the following month. It was another very quick hunt. It was like a little over 500 maybe. A very quick hunt. No idea why I got so lucky early on, but these hunts really changed my trajectory. They really made me start shiny hunting. So I'll always kind of have a special place for them. And this is just GTS trades, and I think, is that all? Yeah, now we're back to the beginning. Alright, so these are all of the box faces. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. And I'm going to show this off in home just because I think it's a little easier rather than taking you out to the game. Even though the game would probably be a nice change of scenery for you. I do have in PLA, well, when we stop looking at the pastures here. Alright. I have a full, and I know my camera's in the way here, the camera a little bit. So I have a full Hisui Dex in PLA. And these were dexes that I was building before the home challenges even came out. You know, so I was building dexes in the game so that I could have them in game if I needed anything, and I was having, you know, the separate sort of dexes in home. So when the home challenges came out, it was great because then I was able to just move these over and then back and get the mythicals, the shiny mythicals, or in Enamorus's case, the shiny legendaries. So that was all an OT dex in PLA. You know, it was all caught by me. I have the exact same thing in Scarlet and Violet. So I have some Terra Raid stuff, some breeding stuff, and then right away we start off, we have the full Paldea Dex. This was amazing to have because I was able to then move things over, like I said, right into home. It was super smooth, super easy. Fully recommend keeping a Living Dex in the game as you go. It's fun on its own, but then you know, with these new rewards, it makes it really quick and easy when they come out. Then I also have all the Kitakami stuff, and then of course the legends are in my Living Dex. I didn't put them in here too. And then the Blueberry Dex with all the starters, everything at the end. So that marks the end of this point of the video, looking at all of the stuff that's in home. The next thing I want to do is show you some of the home challenges. But what I'm going to do for that there is I'm going to... Give me a sec here. Alright. I'm going to display the home screen from the mobile over this part of the video. So if you see here, in home, I've got all of the points. For some reason, never ended up using them. You can see all of my Pokemon right here. You know, it's all the same of what we've seen in the home that I just showed you. But then you can see the Pokedex is full, everything's here. In case you were curious, you know, if you did the unregistered, you'd see nothing's unregistered. The same goes for abilities and moves. Like if we look at the move dex, we go by unregistered, everything's there. The same with abilities, go for unregistered, see 0, right? I have all the moves, all the abilities. I have the crown in every game dex, which was proven already by having the home gifts, but you see the crowns there, and then the Pokedex for Go is as high as it can be with 888. And then I do have almost all of the home challenges, only a couple haven't been completed. So I need a good old Kanto Charizard, good old Kanto Venusaur, and then a Turtwig, Chimchar, and Piplup from Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. I have a friend actually who has those games and is planning on getting them for me, so those should be done soon. And then I do need just a couple more trade ones. I need to do the room trade with 20 people in it and then host room trades. But I'm close. I'm like 5 different challenges away from finishing home. And then, so now that that's done, I do plan on, in the future, pretty soon actually, going through my Pokemon Go account with you guys, showing you all the shinies, different hundos, and things like that I have, but I kind of count that as a separate type of video than this one, so I'm going to keep that separate, make one soon, but thanks for watching. I'll see you next year, if you're even there. I think these videos are more for me than anything else, but that's okay. That's kind of why I make them, so that I can catalog how things are changing, what's new, what's different each year. Something to kind of go back and look at later on. It's really fun to revisit these each year when I go to make the new one. So, all right, see ya in some amount of months.